Hold on a second. You're telling me that M3GAN, M3GAN, that movie is great. Like, we're going to talk about this movie the same way we talk about movies like Jaws and Saving Private Ryan and Jurassic Park. Like, this is that kind of movie? Well, no, not really. It's not the same kind of movie as those movies. However, as far as silly little popcorn horror comedies, yeah, this is a great version of that movie. It is fun. The action and like the horror set pieces are very memorable. They're very silly. They are produced well. They're set up well and executed well. The main villain, obviously, M3GAN herself. I know it's Megan, but I've been calling M3GAN for long enough that I'm not going to change it. She is memorable. She is weird and quirky and has a personality in a way that's not just like scary robot monster. Like, there's a little bit more to her than that. It's the kind of thing that you would want to see in another movie. You'd want to see maybe, I don't know, not like team up with Chucky, but like this character, M3GAN, is exciting, and it's got a more or less effective emotional core. Like, the story at the heart of this movie, what it is using, its themes, and what it's using this idea of a surrogate family member to say about grief, it's all pretty good. Like, I cannot imagine a better version of this movie. Does that mean I think everybody's gonna like this movie? No, not necessarily. But if this is a kind of movie you usually like, you're gonna like this one. Here's the thing. I think this movie is written by, and I looked this up, I have it written in front of me, Akilah Cooper. She wrote *Malignant*. Now, we talked about *Malignant* on Mostly Nitpicking, podcast that I do with my friends DJ and Diggins. I really enjoyed *Malignant*. I think this movie shares a lot in its DNA with *Malignant*, however, is almost a bizarro *Malignant*. The same way *Malignant* was this very campy, kind of, it had a B-movie vibe. It felt sort of underproduced, like the acting wasn't very good. Some of the effects were a little imperfect. Some of the story was a little hokey and silly, and like, you know, there was that, I forget, there's a scene where they were in a jail and *Malignant* killed a bunch of people, including someone who looked like they came from like a roller disco, if I remember correctly. Like, there was enough of that, like things where that movie was drawing from campy, you know, 70s and 80s movies and things like that. M3GAN is the opposite of that, while making more or less the same effect. It is a very produced, very well acted, very well written, very, you know, expensive looking. Like, the doll and the effects associated with the doll, like all the, you know, times when the doll has no head, or, you know, has no, like when it's just a robot, like that looks great. That looks real. This looks like a movie that was made with money. Whereas *Malignant*, besides a couple of things that are really spectacular, like some of those fight scenes and stuff, that could be, you know, a B movie from the early 2000s that no one ever heard of, and then it just kind of, we dug it up, we're like, oh, *Malignant*. Like, this feels like something else. It doesn't feel like that, but it has the same effect. It is thoroughly enjoyable. It is super memorable. The gimmick at the heart of this movie is not something that's all that new. Obviously, evil robot has been done plenty of time. Evil doll has been done plenty of time. Obviously, Chucky, people are going to bring that comparison up. But even evil robot doll, I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure the Chucky reboot they did not too long ago was pretty much this. But M3GAN, as a figure, has enough flavor and personality to turn this into something that feels very different from Chucky. Like, M3GAN is doing things not the same way that Chucky would maybe, like, you know, pick up a knife and try to stab someone. M3GAN would do something a little bit more fun. Have a little bit more, you know, have a good time. We're all here to have fun. M3GAN's gonna, you know, hoist you by your own petard. And also, M3GAN is doing that for a different reason. So I'm not saying M3GAN is better than Chucky. I am saying this movie feels like it does something so similarly. The pitch is very like clear. What if Chucky was instead like a life-size Barbie doll kind of thing? But the execution makes the movie so different from Chucky and so different from other movies that have come before it that have kind of been in this same lane that it's very fun to watch. it feels like in the beginning, you start watching this movie, in the beginning of the movie, not to spoil too much, the little girl is orphaned and goes to live with her aunt, played by Allison Williams. In the beginning, I was like, I don't like this little girl. Like, I don't think she's anything special. And I've never really seen, outside of Get Out, I don't think I've seen too much stuff with Allison Williams. And I was like, I'm not completely sure she works here either. And it takes a while. And part of it, I think, it, like, deliberately has to do with how those characters are kind of closed off and are not connecting emotionally. I can see that in the beginning. You kind of get that sense and you're like, well, this is bad. But it does turn around a little bit. You get way more from the little girl and you get way more from Allison Williams. But like, this is not just a schlocky B movie. This movie knows when it is that. Ronnie Chang and the neighbor and plenty of the other characters could be plucked right from some sort of, very silly slasher horror comedy. But like, the two characters at the heart of this are doing pretty good work. And then obviously, M3GAN, who is the whole face of this movie, obviously, besides the name, all the trailers, everything you see, everything you remember from this movie, you don't remember what, M3GAN is doing or some of the things maybe she's saying or character saying about her. You remember a couple of moments from the trailer that are pretty strange, and you remember the look of that character. It's a very well put together effect. I believe credited for M3GAN are two different actresses. One is an adult and one is a child. I'm assuming what they did was they had the child do the standing in the wig and like wearing a mask or maybe painted her face. I'm honestly not sure how they got that done most of the time. Then the adult did the voice, and that would be how you would kind of match those two things up. But beyond that, the actual character taking something like this, because M3GAN is not just a doll. It is a doll that's supposed to be kind of human, but not. You are supposed to see it and immediately think like that almost looks like a person. So it's in the uncanny valley. I'm sure a lot of people will point this out, but like the idea of making a doll look like M3GAN, it's not impossible. Like it's easy. I'm sure many dolls currently look like this. However, making it look like this intentionally putting this character into the uncanny valley and saying we want something where the eyes look just big enough that you're like, those kind of look like person eyes. Those are almost person eyes. That's tricky. Getting that balance correct, getting the balance of M3GAN walking where it's like, this looks like a robot walking like a human, as opposed to just a robot walking or a human walking. It's very interesting. I would say it's an achievement. It is something that makes this movie would 100% not work if M3GAN was either too robotic or not robotic enough. They managed to get this doll to actress combo into the perfect middle ground, and it's able to work as a horror monster. It's able to work as a surrogate family member, and it's able to throw around some pretty good jokes and do the silly dance number and stuff. I will say, I wish I had not seen the trailer for M3GAN. I don't think if I had not seen the trailer for M3GAN, I'd be that excited for M3GAN. But I do kind of wish it had what Malignant had, where it just kind of showed up and everyone was like, I don't really know what this is. We didn't know the twist, and then it, the movie plays out and you're kind of like, what's going on here? And then you get that moment that comes in Malignant, and then the whole movie becomes insane. I do think M3GAN has those moments, and I think the burn on this relationship between the niece and her aunt and this, difficult family life, and then introducing M3GAN, and then M3GAN kind of works and M3GAN kind of doesn't. It's a very slow burn for an hour 50 minute long movie. And I think it's very good. I think the pacing of this movie is very good. However, I do think that would be a little bit more effective if I didn't know exactly how the doll was going to do all the murders. Then I would probably be a little bit more invested with this, because of how not even like iconic some of the scenes are in the trailer, but distinct. You see them coming a mile away, and you're like, oh, we're in that hallway, or oh, she's wearing that outfit that is going to be for that scene. Now, Maybe I've just seen this trailer too many times. But I do get the sense that this movie's been advertised pretty heavily because they know it's good. And I think this will be a hit, and I think this is going to make a lot of money. But I really wish it was more of a secret, more of a surprise, because I think a lot of the anticipation became all comedy, less horror. There were some moments that were horror-y moments, and there were some good scares in there. But a lot of it, I was like, oh, I know where this is going. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm so smart, I knew exactly where this was going. I'm saying because of the marketing, there were things that I wish I had been surprised by, naturally, that, you know, maybe just didn't work as well. However, and I'm very, very clear about this, it's a very funny movie. There are a lot of things in this that work as like jokes in a horror movie. I love the way people react to M3GAN, usually for the first time. There's some sort of like, what the hell is that moment? It's great. But also, there are just some genuine comedy moments here, like jokes, and that are not just like jokes that work in a horror comedy, jokes that would work on like 30 Rock. And I think that's really, really interesting. I think the way this movie opens, which I'm not going to spoil, is really funny and is something that you could see on some sort of, you know, like 30 Rock parody. And I think that does a really good job of setting the tone of this movie. Yeah, I think people are going to like this movie. I think it's going to make a lot of money. I think this is going to be a great Halloween costume in, you know, 10 months or whatever. I think there will be 3 at least of these. We're going to get M3GAN, we're going to get M5GAN, and I hope by the end of these, M3GAN has taken over the world. Not to say that in the end of this one, it seems like she will, but, you know, it's a horror movie. Nothing ever stays anything. Overall, I think it's great. I had a really good time with it. Everybody at the theater had a really good time with it. And I think if it's something you think you'll like, you'll probably like it. And try not to be spoiled by any of the advertisements.